I have spent 18 years living inside my own head, asking questions like, what if they don't like me? What if I disappoint my family? In all these pictures, I was always ashamed of the person I was. I was embarrassed about a lot of things, but I was mostly embarrassed about the way I physically looked. My body. All my life, I've been constantly worried about how people perceive me, and those anxious thoughts consumed my mind. I was self-critical about what I should have done and how I could have done it better. People's opinions of me scared me, and I let that fear rob me of a lot of joy. But I've learned over these 18 years that I just can't live in doubt and fear anymore. I'm finally realizing that I am enough in every aspect of my life.
Today, I'm 18 years old. That is so crazy. I feel so old. But I just wanted to take time to reflect over the life I've lived and just talk about my growing up story and how I learned to love myself at every stage of life. And I want to bring awareness to these issues, so hopefully this will encourage any of you who are going through a similar situation. But yeah, my story begins at age 5.
At school, it didn't take long for me to realize that I was significantly taller and bigger than every single one of my classmates. I became self-conscious about my size because I realized I was wearing 3 to 5 sizes bigger than all my friends. I couldn't fit into anything that my classmates could wear, and the costumes at school, well, they were my enemies. Nothing ever fit, and I was constantly reminded that I was just too big. Now looking back, I realized that my classmates were just a lot scrawnier than I was, but at the time I believed that it was my fault that I was bigger, and somehow I was less valued because of my size. My self-confidence was crushed. Unfortunately, bullies are just everywhere. People at school would tease me about the stupidest things, like my shoes or raincoat. But being my quieter self, I didn't have the courage to say a word. It's fine to do that if you're strong, but I wasn't strong. Not responding was out of fear, not out of turning the other cheek.
Oh, that looks so good! It smells really good too.
Age 6 was first grade, and I was again reminded that I wasn't like the other kids. Not only was I much bigger than everyone around me, but I also looked completely different in my physical features. It was at this time that I had a bit of a mini identity crisis. I watched some Chinese dramas with my family, and I realized I just wanted to be one race or the other, not both. I wasn't fully Asian, but I wasn't fully Caucasian. I was confused as to which group I belonged in.
These are really good, actually.
Looking back, I just didn't have the maturity yet to realize that my identity is in Christ.
I remember playing dress up with my friends, and I would put on a ton of white powder on my face to make my skin look whiter.
At the time, I didn't see diversity as an amazing thing that God created. I just knew that I wanted to look more like the other kids at school. At this age, I was still bigger than all the boys and girls, but now I was also questioning my identity. At age 7, I was bullied a lot at school. I would come home every day from school crying because of how people would pester me and make fun of me.
I didn't know why these people were mean to me when I did nothing to them. I was just anxious all the time.
Once again, my fear of people's opinions kept me from protecting myself.
It kind of feels like I'm eating cookie dough, but it still tastes really good.
The anxiety I experienced was unrelenting. Every day pulling into the school parking lot, my heart would skip a beat.
It's a little bitter. Could be sweeter, but they're so good.
It was at this age that I officially started playing violin. I loved violin, loved it, and it was something that I really enjoyed. I continued my lessons all through the years, and let me tell you, having violin got me through a lot of hard times. I was 8 years old in the 3rd grade, and at this time I hit puberty, which is just great. I had to start wearing bras, and none of my friends had to. I was so mad with my body because I didn't want it to change, especially when I was the only one going through this at the time. But there was nothing I could do. Looking back, I know that it is just a normal and essential process that has to take place. I just wish I would have known as an 8-year-old that it wasn't my fault. I also was super insecure that I was nearly 100 pounds while the rest of my class was a lot less. Whenever people would talk about their weight, I was afraid they would ask me my weight. I was really insecure about my weight. At around 10 years old, I began noticing that I ate significantly more than all my friends at lunch. I just needed a lot of food to keep me full and energized throughout the day. but I was so young that I knew nothing about the science of nutrition, and I thought I was doing something wrong.
Not when it's like this, like on a nice summer day with wind, but not like a winter.
Just because everyone around me was eating less. It was at this age that I started following the diet tips that I found online to lose a few pounds. I was embarrassed that I was eating bigger meals than everyone around me. I hadn't even thought twice about my food intake until I started noticing others around me. I realize now that comparison at any level is destructive. I compared my food intake to theirs, and I thought I needed to start cutting back a bit, especially if I wanted to look like them and be thinner. It was this year that I began competitive swimming, and it was my favorite sport, far above ice skating, basketball, and soccer. I loved that swimmers didn't see me as big or skinny, but saw me as an athlete. It was a great reminder how we should view ourselves. We should think about how our bodies perform more than their appearance. A healthy body isn't an appearance, it's how our body functions and takes care of us. At the end of this age, I felt better with my relationship with food, but unfortunately, it just didn't last. At age 11, people began teasing me again. I will say that I don't like the F word, and I'm not talking about the F word, I'm talking about the word fat. I just don't like it for so many reasons, but I will say that I was called that a lot, even when I was younger, but especially at this age. People I knew would make comments that if I sat on something, it would break and say that I was fat. I remember feeling so damaged and lost. It was at this age that I started delving into the world of fad nutrition yet again. How to get thinner, how to look a certain way, what to eat to lose weight, etc. Unfortunately, during this time, I thought that I needed to be eating super clean, so I cut out all dessert. I was so disciplined that I never gave in. I was eating, but I never let myself enjoy fun foods. I would skip out on family dessert nights and refuse to eat anything that was processed. I missed out on a lot of fun opportunities. On top of this, I was exercising a lot. All the weight loss tips I read said just to eat less and work out more, so that's what I did.
It's very creamy and has a really nice chocolate flavor. I just can't believe there's avocado in here.
I was finally building a lot of muscle, and I was determined to be strong and lean. It was almost as if I wanted to prove to all the people who told me that I was big that I was more than that. I made a mistake by letting others' opinions of me rule my life. I wish I could go back to my younger self and tell her, you are more than your body. Your body is the least interesting thing about you. What matters is your heart and your kindness for the world. But at that time, I couldn't possibly know any of this. In the 7th grade, I really started trying to eat healthy and exercise intensely. I was still swimming. I began learning about calories and what they really were. But somehow I developed a bad understanding of calories. I saw them as something that would make me gain weight, which I was terrified of. Of course, now I know that calories are just energy units that our body needs to function. At this time, I tried to always find the lowest calorie option. Taste didn't matter to me anymore. All I cared about were the nutrition facts on the label, and I had to look at any label before I ate anything. It was an obsession that consumed my mind. I had taken health too far. This wasn't healthy anymore.
Okay, so this is the pizza. This is an almond flour crust, and half of it is pineapple and Canadian bacon, and then the other half is chicken and onion.
At age 13, I was still swimming and I was still obsessed with my body and food, but I began realizing that I could just exercise off all that I'd eaten. So if I wanted ice cream, I would just go do some cardio to work it off afterwards.
Good. Oh my. Wait, I got it. There we go.
I thought that if I didn't do enough homework that night, I didn't deserve a treat. If I knew I'd be eating a lot of dessert, I would restrict for days just so I could overindulge for a night. I thought I never deserved any fun foods.
Which one should I do first, pineapple or chicken?
Which one do you think you're gonna like better?
Pineapple. Maybe I'll do the chicken one.
I will say that you deserve food at whatever size you think you are. You deserve to eat even if you ate a little more than usual yesterday. Eating is not a reward, it's an essential part of life. Now my approach to health is drastically different.
Put peanut butter on this chocolate ice cream, so it's gonna be like peanut butter and chocolate.
I wish I could have told myself then that you don't have to work it off. You deserve food without having to exercise. So I developed this bad mentality that in order for me to eat any dessert, I would have to exercise to compensate. This couldn't be further from the truth. Exercising was something I did at that time because I felt like I needed to lose weight, not because it felt good to my body. In 9th grade, I was swimming competitively at my high school. It was a great experience because I learned so much about swimming and training and everything related to fitness, but it was also the time that I was significantly underfueling myself. We trained a good 2.5 to 3.5 hours a day, and at this point I was really strong, but at the same time I felt really weak. I didn't mind it as long as I was staying the way I looked. I was super toned and lean, but my strength just wasn't there anymore. At this point, I didn't really think too much about nutrition other than getting enough protein. My period was gone during the season, but eventually it did come back in the late winter. But it was gone for a good 4 months. I knew something was probably wrong, but I didn't mind not having a period. It was actually really nice. Looking back, that was a sure sign I was underfueling myself, and now I know that is absolutely not a good thing that happened. And I just was really happy that I was finally starting to get leaner and I was starting to lose some weight, and I was really excited, so I ignored all of the signs that told me something was wrong. In 10th grade, I swam again for the girls' high school season, and within the first week of practice, I lost my period again. Honestly, I wasn't upset. Bleeding every month was getting old and I didn't really think much of it, but this time it didn't come back for over 6 months. It was probably a combination of increased stress and underfueling myself. It was this year that I really went on a clean eating craze. I thought that to be healthy, I needed to eat super clean and not eat any junk food ever. This was probably the greatest mistake I made in my journey. I missed out on so much because I was afraid of eating anything that wasn't natural. My hair began to thin and I was no longer physiologically healthy. I was cold and tired all the time, I wasn't sleeping well, and the year was just so long. I valued myself based on my appearance and how strong I looked. I let that obsession take over in my life. And it was this year that I dropped to a really low weight that I know was not healthy for myself, but I didn't care. I was finally skinny and I didn't want to give that up, even though I knew it was probably not the best for my health. In grade 11, I was 17 and people at school were just not nice to me. People would pass me at the lunch table to sit clear across the room from me. I thought there was something wrong with me because no one wanted to sit with me. If they ever talked with me, it was a hi and bye. I had a friend or two, but they weren't with me at school. I was always the more sporty girl type and I studied, so I guess a lot of the girls just didn't vibe with that. I realized how much people judge you based on your appearance, and I knew at this point that I shouldn't change myself to be like others, and I didn't want to. But sometimes that is a really lonely road. That year, I faced extreme loneliness and burnout. I was crying almost every other day for a while, and it was an emotional roller coaster. I knew of people, but I felt like I wasn't really connecting with them. I took advanced classes and did well, but I was barely surviving. I experienced severe depression and I was stressed out all the time. I really leaned on food to help me through these times. There was nothing wrong with emotional eating, but I feel that at this point I didn't have another outlet to help myself besides food. Sure, I wasn't as food focused and body image obsessed, but I wasn't taking care of my health at all. I was sleeping poorly, eating unbalanced meals that didn't make me feel good, and I was overworking myself on a daily basis. On top of that, I basically shut everyone out. I was so focused on my goals of good grades and getting into college that I didn't take time to be with my family and friends.
These are really sweet, yeah.
I know, those are really good.
That is not any way to live.
Oh my goodness, baked potato, seafood, and asparagus.
In March of 2021, I started my YouTube channel. I was finally able to do something that I wanted to do that wasn't required for school.
Oh, potato.
It looks like there's ants all over it.
It was something I genuinely wanted to do to help others.
Good
And I
texture.
can't thank you all enough for your support on my YouTube channel.
No! She was so confident.
I did the same thing.
I said, no! She was so confident.
I feel like in grade 11, I was finally fed up with the constant exercising and restriction. I began watching people like Abby Sharp, Stephanie Buttermore, and Linda Sun, and I realized that I was doing it all wrong. I was approaching health in the wrong way. I needed to prioritize my sleep and fuel my body with things that I actually craved. I needed to stop the restriction and just live my life. I needed to be in tune with my body and stop worrying about the numbers. I feel like the pressure of school in a way helped me to realize all this. I simply didn't have time to micromanage my food intake as much as I did in the past, so everything really does happen for a reason. This year, I just really realized that I don't care what people think about me. I don't need to care because they're not me. We're not the same people, and what I do is for myself and what I think needs to be done for my body. And I don't need to be constantly worried if people are going to accept me or not, and what they'll think of me,
really good.
because I now have this confidence that I didn't have in the past. Now I'm 18 years old, and obviously I still have a ton to learn. Don't get me wrong, I still have insecurities because I'm only human, but each year I'm learning more and more about myself. I think that's the beautiful thing about aging, is that as you grow to be wiser.
Good job.
Thanks, guys. You're an adult. Looks good, all chocolated up. Here's from the side.
I can't believe how far I've come. Just taking time to reflect over the past years has been calming and in some ways reassuring. I now have improved my relationship with food and exercise tremendously. I still have bad body image days where I just don't like what I see in the mirror, but now I know that I'm more than my physical body. I now exercise because I actually want to move my body because it feels good to me. I know that my God loves me because He created me. I have that reassurance as a Christian that the Lord will continue to work His plan for my life, and I just have to trust the process. Everything in life happens for a reason, so please don't stress, be happy. Smile because you have today. Smile because you're breathing. Smile because you are enough.
Although we